I don't know if I did want, or I don't know as I knew I wanted to be a sound designer. I fell into it completely by accident. I already worked in a theatre. And again, that's something that I started doing because I grew up in a small town. There wasn't much around in way of work. And a job in the local theatre, which came up in the local paper, was more interesting than the factory I was working in before. So I went for it and discovered that I quite liked it. And one time, some years later, I was talking to a director in the bar after a show one evening, and she asked if I knew anyone who could help with the sound on her show because their sound designer had just dropped out. And as a musician and somebody who's always made music and stuff like that, and produced in the studio at home, I thought I said, oh, I'll have a go. Totally depends on who I work with because everyone has a different process and every play requires a different process. So even when I work with a particular director on different occasions, we might go through the process slightly differently. And I do like to be in the room, I think, more than maybe a lot of other sound designers. I think that's often because of the composer in me, and I find it much easier if I'm writing music to be around the thing that I'm writing music for, because it's so much more about mood and is it's quite a sort of it's about getting the feel right, and it can be quite intangible as to whether something works or doesn't work, the reasons why. And I've found in the past that if I'm not in the room, I find it much easier to go off on a tangent and sort of write a piece of music because it's a nice piece of music, and then bring it into the rehearsal room and find that it no longer fits. My process for Rise Up started a few months before with a couple of meetings and conversations with Natalie, where we discussed things, some of which have ended up following through the process till now, and ideas that we had, and a lot of stuff actually we've discovered the play is not what we thought it might be. So its requirements are different, and often you can't tell until you get something in the rehearsal room with the particular actors who are going to be performing it and their strengths and just how something's going to work. I'm surprised to find that the sounds for this are they punctuate it a lot, so it's short sounds that punctuate. There's not so much sort of sound beds and texture that runs through, and it's just the way that it feels right for this show. Not particularly. I think it's easier to say what I'm less inclined to be involved with. I don't generally like I don't like naturalism in theatre particularly. I much prefer when work is stylised. I find that we've got television for naturalism. We can always all go and watch EastEnders. We don't need it on a stage. And non-naturalistic or stylised work gives a lot more scope to be creative with sound and music. My advice is try and do it with amateur companies or anything like that, because the best skills you can learn can only be learnt through experience, and it's about understanding how sound alters people's emotions and affects an audience, and you can really only you can't be taught that. And a lot of the technical skills are of far less importance than that.